Welcome to For the Rest of Us podcast, where we explore old tales to reveal the ever-present presence of ourselves. My name is Julian. Today, I'd like to draw your attention to the Abbot of Drimnagh, who, as it turns out, was also the wife of the Erenagh of Crumlin. In the year 1907, Kuno Meyer, a German-American scholar, provided a translation of the story of the Abbot of Drimnagh, originally recorded in the 15th century. We'll discuss its origins and speculation about that later. For now, just listen, and be aware that the abbot's pronouns will change during the story. This change is in the original text from Meyer, a direct translation of the Irish, and is not my interpretation. However, I will be following its example throughout this talk. A certain young man who held the abbacy of Drimnagh decided that he would arrange a great festive assembly to celebrate Easter. After preparing the festivities, the young man went out of the banqueting hall and sat down high on a beautiful and verdant hill overlooking the settlement. Thus was the young man attired, a most luxuriant linen hat on his head, and a smock of royal silk next to his strikingly beautiful skin. Over that he wore an eye-catching, elegant tunic, and a flowing cloak of dark brown scarlet around him, and in his hand he carried a splendid gold-hilted sword. And on reaching the hill he rested his head on his arm and fell asleep. And when he awoke from his sleep and thought to take hold of his sword, he found only a woman's implement, a distaff, in its place. He was dressed in a woman's frock that reached fully to the ground, and his hair had become like that of a woman, for exquisitely beautiful, long, graceful, golden locks now adorned his head. And when he felt his face with his hand, he found no whiskers or beard. And when he put his hand between his thighs, he discovered there the proof of womanhood. For all that, the young man could not believe in these various signs, for he thought that it was a magic transformation that had been wrought on him. Afterwards, along came a certain big woman, clad in armor and altogether sallow and ugly. A bristly, grayish apparition she was, with deep-set eyes, and she said, "How is it, O gentle golden-haired young maiden, that you are alone on this hill as night is falling?" And the other, who was depressed, tearful and sad over all that had happened, said then, "I do not know now where I shall go, nor what I shall do, for whatever change has come over me, my people will disown me, and, destined as I am to wander henceforth, it is dangerous for any woman to travel about alone. Nevertheless, it is best that I journey forth through the world, so that God may pass judgment on me, for it is he who has altered my appearance and form, and has so marred and disfigured me. But, though God has transformed my appearance, I give my word in sight of the Creator that I never hanged anyone, I never wronged anyone, I never violated the rule of bell, crown, or crozier, I never persecuted any church, I never spoke evil to anyone, and guests never went away disappointed from my kin or from my household." Then he went from the beautiful brow and sweet slopes of the hill, lamenting piteously and crying sorely, and saying, as he went, "It is a pity," said he, "that the ground of this hill would not swallow me now, for I do not know what I shall do." She went away then westward along the hillside until she came to the green of Crumlin, that is to say the monastery west of Drimnagh. Then on the green of the settlement she met a certain tall young man of military bearing, and that young man conceived an intense love for her that could not be hidden. He started to entreat her and did not desist until she accepted his affections and his company, and, after they had made love, the young man asked the young woman what country she came from and who she was, whether of noble or lowly birth. The young woman said that he would not get that information from her, however long or short a time they might be together. "It is I," said the young man, "who will introduce myself to you, for I am the Erenagh of the monastery which bears the name of Crumlin. I lost my wife 2 years ago, and you will be my beloved wife, as we are well matched in age." And then they went together to the Erenagh's house, and the household afforded her a kindly and warm welcome, and she lived with him as his wedded wife for 7 years, and bore him 7 children during that time. Some time afterwards, a messenger came to the Erenagh from the community and congregation of Drimnagh to invite him on the occasion of Easter, and she went with the Erenagh to the hill where her form had first been changed, and straightway she fell asleep on the hill. and the Erenagh and his familia went on to the monastery. When the young woman awoke from her sleep, she had become a man, and had recovered her original form as it had been previously, and he discovered his trusty sword with its gold crossguard on his knee. And he said, "O powerful God, I am in a terrible plight." And when he had wept profusely, he went to his original dwelling, and his wife said to him then, "You have been too long away from your house." Seats had by then been placed in the drinking hall, and that strange tale was told to the household, but his story was not believed because his wife said that they had not been apart even a single hour. At length, after the many and various proofs had been adduced, his account was borne out, and an adjudication was made between them and the Erenagh of Crumlin. The judgment that was reached was that the children be divided between the two, and that the seventh child be given as foster son to the Erenagh, and so they parted from each other, etc. Agus Shanae. That's the story. What did you notice in the story? What caught your ear? What was happening when the abbot's pronouns changed, then changed back? Keep these thoughts in mind as we explore the history of not only this story, but the many others which relate magical gender change in Indo-European lore throughout the centuries. For surely, as we will see, the concept is not new. This story, the Abbot of Drimnagh, was set in County Dublin, in what is today two suburbs of the capital city, Drimnagh and Crumlin. There were 4 manuscripts containing this story, all recorded in the late 14th and early 15th centuries. The version I have read, from Kuno Meyer, was composed using 2 of these manuscripts, leaving 2 unreviewed. I do not know what lay within these 2. Scholar Dr. Barbara Hillers explains that this story has roots in Scottish and Irish oral lore, not uncommon among monastery recorded tales. What is uncommon among European lore is gender shifting. This theme is more common within Indian lore, and in any case, it is not non-existent. There are clear examples in Indian, Greek, Norse, Irish, and Scottish lore. Dr. Hillers points out the most pervasive themes within the lore in her paper, The Abbot of Drimnagh, Gender Bending in Gaelic Tradition. The first type of story can be described as the opposite of the Abbot of Drimnagh. In this, a young girl, sometimes an infant, is changed permanently to a male. This transformation is seen as wholly positive, and often a reward for service, such as substituting for a brother as a soldier, or a consequence of an adventure. Often, an heir is needed. There are a few examples of this sort of transformation in Greek myth. Both hailing from Crete, we have the stories of Iphis and Leucippus. Iphis was born female into a dangerous household. Iphis's father, claiming he couldn't afford a dowry, told his wife, Telethusa, that if a baby girl were born, he would kill it. So when the baby was born female, the mother disguised the child as a little boy and raised her baby thusly. The child grew into a young man and was then engaged to be wed to Iantha. The pair fell in love, and Iphis grew distraught as the wedding approached. Telethusa and Iphis went to the temple of Isis to pray for a solution, offering jewelry to the goddess. Their prayers were answered, and Iphis's body was transformed to match a lifetime's social presentation. This story is very similar to Leucippus's own, but the goddess responsible for that transformation was Leto, mother of Artemis and Apollo. This story inspired a rite of passage for young men of the area. A third story, that of Caeneus, involves Poseidon. After having sex with the sea god, Caeneus asks to be transformed in order to avoid pregnancy. Within Irish lore, the transformations usually involve saints, working through the will of God as they baptize female infants. St. Alban appealed to God to transform the daughter of an elderly, heirless king into a son, and was granted his request. Similar stories involved St. Gerald and St. Brendan. The second type of tale, the class that the Abbot of Drimnagh falls into, differs from the above in several ways. It is male to female, it is temporary, and it is mainly negative, or comical. In these stories, much like Loki of Norse mythology, the hero-heroine becomes pregnant and gives birth, or otherwise cares for children and a family. This transformation can be inflicted as a punishment, such as in the Mabinogion, and you'll have to forgive me because I do not know Welsh, where brothers Gwydion and Gilfweithwy are punished for the rape of a girl. Or it can simply be the influence of the Sidhe, or the fairies. At times, particularly in Scottish oral stories, it contains a degree of comedy at the expense of the hero-heroine. In one story from Scotland, a man changes into a woman while riding a boat to Ireland. Like the abbot, he comes slowly to the realization that something has changed, eventually reaching between his own legs and finding, quote, something gone, unquote. While in Ireland, she has children and lives her life there, until spotting the boat once more. She returns home and finds herself again a man. To his surprise, no one back home noticed his absence, and though he'd borne and raised several children, only an hour had passed there. A similar story from Tir Connell and Donegal takes place over 7 years, and the hero or heroine does not bear children herself, but cares for an orphan she discovered on an island. In these stories, I'm struck by the probability of Sidhe interference. The compression of time is common among Sidhe tales, from Oisin and Tir Nanog to our own Abbot, who returns home having been gone only an hour. Time in other worlds, or worlds warped by the Sidhe, does not behave in the linear fashion we have decided to abide by. Often the presence of strange people can be indicative of Sidhe interference. In the Abbot, there is the inexplicable presence of an atypical woman, at least atypical in these sorts of tales. She's big, clad in armor, and described as being ugly. The boat in the Donegal tale above is driven by a, quote, little old red-haired man, unquote, whose hair color could indicate something otherworldly. Could the orphan that was adopted on the island be a she-baby? As changelings are left to be cared for by humans, so too was this child minded by the heroine. In the abbot's case, he'd fallen asleep on a high hill after sunset during Easter, a magical place in a liminal time, both in the year and in the day. Liminality is the purview of the Sidhe, and not respecting Sidhe land earns a punishment. So, what does it all mean? At least, in the case of the abbot. The story could be a joke made at the abbot's expense. It could be allegorical, telling a story about the political events between the two monasteries of Drimnagh and Crumlin, were the result of Drimnagh's submission. The children representing monastic lands are split among the pair, with Crumlin getting more. It could be a punishment for the abbot behaving out of turn, intruding on a Sidhe hill during a dangerous time of day. A lesson to us all to stay away from the Dini Ushla. Notice the description of the abbot's fine clothing. Perhaps it's a punishment for vanity, or for possession of such extravagant goods. Certainly, the abbot is very upset by the change from a man to a woman. But so too is she upset by the change of woman back to man at the end of the tale, weeping profusely before returning to his first home. Life is hard for a woman in these stories, and the abbot knows this, now, more intimately than many. The misogyny in these tales is unavoidable. The mere presumption that to be a woman is a curse, and to be a man is a blessing, runs through the tales. In the first accounts, where a female child is changed to a male child, or young adult, there is celebration. In the other tales, where a man is transformed into a woman, who becomes a mother, there is lamenting. Or, as we well know ourselves from such transphobic films as Ace Ventura, the transition is treated as a joke. But it can be a wonder. In a section of the story The Feast at Conan's House, in which Finn McCool describes the greatest wonders of the Fenians, he says, quote, "There is another strange wonder, namely, a certain man who is each alternate year a male and female. Children are born to him while he's a male, and he himself bears children while a female." Unquote. What is undeniable, though, is that there has been awareness of gender changes since ancient times. It is not some new internet phenomenon. It is a part of our stories, and it has been for thousands of years, and that is documented, even through the filters of misogyny and religion that have been placed upon it. Gender transition has been, is, and will be a fact of humanity. And sometimes it's magical. I want to thank creators at Freesound for the use of their clips in this episode. Nigel Nix for Irish Whistle and Sounds Exciting for the church bells of Siena Cathedral. And you, for listening. This Abbot of Drimnagh text is available online in the original language, Modern Irish, and English at the University College Quirk's website at iso.ucc.ie. The original manuscript is kept in the Bodleian Library in Oxford. The feast at Conan's house can be accessed at maryjones.us. Dr. Barbara Hiller's paper, The Abbot of Drimnagh, Gender Bending in Gaelic Tradition, was instrumental in this episode and can be accessed at JSTOR. Go raibh míle maith a gcuimh as a bheith an seo lomsa, agus tásúil am go bhfuil sibh go maith. Slán go fóill a chéirde.